Hello, Global Gladiators. Welcome back for Street Masters Rise of the Kingdom. Today we're going to be looking at the stage Original Copy. I'm going to have a few suggestions on how to organize the stage to make it easier to keep track of everything going on. You're going to need at least 2 enemy decks because you're going to need to put some clones into place. There's a few different ways you can do that. You can just pick one enemy and have that be the same clone, or you can decide to make a huge mess out of all of your cards and have random ones pop in depending on how you want to play the stage and how exciting you want it to be. We're going to start setting up the board using the static tokens. They have no special rules, nothing ever changes. That's the loot tokens, so we'll put those up on the board. The next thing to notice, if this is the first time you've looked at this map, is that some of the tiles have little USB looking icons on them, and we should look at our stage setup cards to find out what those mean. On the bottom of the backside of the setup card, it says that it's a cloning tank. Well, we're going to need to set up some cloning areas to go with that cloning tank on our table. It says here to place 1 clone figure in each of the spaces, so you can use one deck that's not the main one that's going to contain the boss and pull your clones from there, selecting one enemy to be the clone. Or as I said before, if you've done this a bunch of times and you want to go nuts, you could take, say, all of the red cards, all of the yellow cards, blue cards, green cards, purple cards, set them into separate piles based on color, and then just start pulling random ones. It's up to you. That's kind of a house rule thing. But if you want to mix it up, if you've played through this a bunch of times, there's a suggestion for you. The rest of the video, we're just going to be looking at if we used one single enemy. You can pick any enemy depending on if you have a theme going for your current campaign, or you can just pull a random one. The one I'm going to use is the Uri Shadows from the Legend of Oni, because they all look the same. They have the translucent plastic that they're made out of, and to me that just feels more like a clone. The rest of this card is pretty packed with information. The objective tokens are going to be on the board on the inactive side when we start, and we're going to need the Vandal Serum card set aside, as well as computer terminals put into the stage area. That's going to go with these stage rules because there's an activate, and we'll set that on the board now. Keep in mind that the cloning tank spaces are going to be blocked persistently, not just when the tokens are on the spaces. So you may want to get something cheap, like a penny is about the right size. Anything to kind of give you an indication that you're not supposed to walk into those spaces. If the board art is too light for you, having something on the board, especially in a dark room, will make this very handy to remember. Here's an example of the cloning area setup. As you can see, Kimono is the boss I've selected, and he's a member of the kingdom. The Oni are not, so they're from separate decks. Very important, the clones are from separate decks. So there's a few cards we need to look at, and the first one is going to be the computer terminals. It's going to tell us how to activate the objective tokens. As you can see here, as the bosses move around the board, they're going to be flipping the tokens into their active state. This is going to start generating the clones. That's the theme of this stage. So what you're going to be doing is running back over and trying to flip them back off. That's your activate function. If you stand on top of the objective, and it's important, it's not adjacent to, it's on top of for this stage, you remove Vandal Serum, which we're going to look at in a second, and return it to the serum supply, discarding all the power. If all of the clones are turned on, you lose. So it's kind of a race between you and the enemies to either destroy the clones, keep them off, or kill the boss. I'm going to go back to the idea just for a second of standing on top of the objectives to flip them on or off. That means that you can use your fighters to block those spaces if you need to. This is the Vandal Serum card. Basically, it allows you to keep track of which color cloning tanks are currently charging up. So there's going to be 5 of these in the deck. you just attach these to a card that's in the cloning area that is currently active. Once they start, they continue to gain power until they become a fully formed fighter, and then they dump out and start attacking you as normal. It is important to know that it is a continuous cycle, and that's what this card sets up, is that when the enemy is defeated, you just reset them back to the cloning tank and put this Vandal card back into the serum supply. Pretty much every first turn is going to end up with the boss reaching the purple or the green one, so I'm going to show you as an example of what that would look like if the boss moves down and activates the green one. You attach the card, usually just by setting the card underneath the enemy card so that you can see the text on the bottom, but it won't take up a lot of space on the board. And that's pretty much how you set up and get started to continue this stage. A couple of things I would suggest is maybe not spread damage around so much as focus on eliminating all enemies possible within your turn. Enemies are going to keep popping up every time you go to a threat phase with a new fighter, so you're going to have between 1 and 4 new enemies, and you're also going to have all of these objective tokens turning into clones. You can assign the power that's generated by the cloning tanks however you want to the characters that have the Vandal serum. It may be better in certain circumstances to try to turn on the clone that's closest to your fighters instead of further away. If you read carefully the card text, it just says to place power onto one of the clones that's being generated. So if you have 4 in play, you're going to have a lot of power being put on by stage cards, and if you start spreading it around too much, you're going to be overrun way too quickly. So you may want to just think about focusing your attacks, focusing the placement of your power tokens, and make it easier on yourself. The enemies are going to keep moving towards inactive objectives throughout the stage, so it's a good strategy to stand on top of them also and block them as much as you can. I hope this has been helpful in understanding how to set up the stage. If you have any other comments or questions, feel free to put them on the Street Masters fan page on Facebook. This gets uploaded there as well as to the YouTube channel and on Board Game Geek. You can submit comments, and usually if you have any other questions, one of the developers will be able to answer them either in Board Game Geek or on the Facebook page. They don't read my channel's comments, so it's not going to help you much unless you have a question directly for me. Have a good one.